dead in shape. Even to the casual observer, it is beginning
I'm
to
skimming
resemble
the whole
the plane.
rear end of
In
this
some
now
areas, the foam was shaped too well, and
with
in others, air pockets were trapped. These could be
a
filled
skimming
with a standard
compound, a
auto-bind
light
filler,
bondo
or
basically.
you can mix
You
phenolic
could use
alcohol with your molding resin to
anything like
create a spreadable,
patcher
standable
for
paste
walls,
filler. We have
plaster
body
of
filler
Paris
on
even,
hand,
but as
so
long
it
as
was
it's
used
thin,
on
just
the
covering
areas we needed
scratches.
to reconstruct.
I'm getting
The
tackled by
surface
the
does not
cat
have to
here,
be
so
perfect, but it should not be higher than the surrounding foam. Once all the high spots on the foam were removed, the plug was skimmed. This is the fifth step of building
now
the
the
plug.
cat's on my back. I'm not
The
sure you can
surface has
see
to be
that.
completely non-porous and pretty resilient. Typically,
this
it is
out.
fiberglass.
Get off me.
This mat layer serves two functions. First, it protects the foam from accidental crushing during handling. Second, and more importantly, it provides a solid base for all other surfacing compounds to be applied later. Thoroughly saturate pieces
We're
of
listening to a
fiberglass
lesson
mat
on the
and
internet
lay them in
about
place.
fiberglassing.
Begin with torn chunks,
So,
which approximate the space between the
good
bulkheads you are
reinforcement.
going to fill.
If I
It may be
forget
helpful to
anything,
paint some resin
I
over
might
the
hear
foam
it.
before applying it in order to fill many of the tiny holes. The foam holds quite a bit of air because the cells were cut open during the shaping process. Try to work out the larger air pockets by stippling with a brush or wiping with your gloved fingers. A groove saturation roller also helps to remove the air. Mix batches of resin in quantities which can be applied before the cure sets in. Begin with small pots until you become familiar with the cure cycle. I continue to work from batch to batch
Using a
and am not
rubber
concerned with how much of the fiberglass has
spatula,
been cured. As I go along,
so I
I
can
make sure
do
that each piece
a
is
nice
laid properly
contour.
without trapping air. That way, if the resin does set up, I don't worry about poor adhesion problems.
But
One even
I've
coat of
already done
fiberglass is
pretty
all
much
that is
a
needed to
final
coat the
sand on
plug
this,
for
so
protection.
I'm
If
just coating
necessary,
up for
extra layers
scratches
may be added to
and to
fill
cover
minor
all
low
the
spots. Work
foam so that
consistently to
when
cover
I
all
paint it,
exposed foam. The
to
body
start
filler can be
polishing
covered
it,
just like the foam.
I know exactly
I worked alternately between
that it's
filling,
smooth.
shaping, and skinning the foam until the entire framework was uniform.
And we'll go
When
on
the
a light
entire
sand of
framework has
this with
been skinned,
nice
it
fine
needs to be
grit.
lightly sanded to remove any
Gotta
stray
watch
fibers
these
and
chunks
promote
because
good
they'll just
adhesion
turn
to
into
other
powder.
surfacing compounds. This is also a good time to look for air pockets which need to be ground
There's
out
always
and
going to be
repaired.
chunks in your mix
The
if it's
portions of
just
mat which were
plaster or
ground
something,
out over
so
the air pockets
this is
are being replaced.
smooths quite
Other
quickly,
areas
so
are being filled because too much
you might
foam
have
was
to
removed
pay
during the
attention
thinning
to
stage.
that.
Notice that the mat saturates quicker when placed on a non-porous surface than
This
it
is
did
why I
over the
did
foam.
drywall for so many
It is
years, I
possible to
think,
work faster now, but still watch
as
out for
well
air
as
bubbles.
bondo.
I mentioned it earlier, but this is a demonstration of a groove saturation roller at work. It has no equal for quickly and thoroughly removing air from
I'm
the chopped mat
definitely
surface.
hitting some low spots here,
Look
so
carefully for areas
that's a
where the
good
fiberglass does
sign.
not stick to the foam. These areas will feel spongy when pressed and must be cut away.
As it
It
thickens,
is now time to
it's going
proceed
to
to the
become much
sixth step
easier
of
to
plug
spread,
construction.
but also limited in its time. We're not looking
Rarely
for a
saturate
finished
the strip
look,
of
but
mat
we're
when you
looking
intend
for
to lay
the
in the
low
plan.
spots.
We don't particularly care about the weight of the mold and are fairly generous with the resin content. Buff one cut edge up against the plug and the other falls evenly and minimizes the trimming necessary when finishing
And that's
the
a
plan.
perfect side there now, I think,
Watch for
almost.
clear air bubbles in the resin and work them out using the brush and your fingers as you work. If you wish,
Got a good
paint some resin down on the flange before you
1/16
lay
to
your mat
1/8
strip
to
in
work
place.
with here, so we'll be able to
We
keep
also
the
cut a
shape.
number of strips of mat about 8 inches wide. These I tore in half, which left 2 strips
Just gotta
with a
know when to
single cut
stop.
edge
That's
and
the
1
key.
frayed edge. I placed the frayed edge strip under the plug surface by butting the cut edge into the corner against the flange. The frayed edge drapes evenly onto the plug surface where the other layers may be applied over it without trapping air pockets. This butt joint at the corner effectively eliminates air bubbles. As always, I apply these strips one layer at a time, watching closely not to trap air. After a few layers have been applied in this way, I place the cut edge of the strip even with the edge of the flange and allow the frayed edge to overlap onto the plug. After the flange and plug corner were covered with one even layer, we were ready to lay up the surface over the plug. It is easier to work torn chunks over the contours than full lengths of mat. You will again lay resin on the surface and saturate the mat as well. Applying the mat directly with gloved hands is the most common approach and allows for the feel of the plug. Stippling with a brush and a groove saturation roller helps to eliminate air. You will want to apply a total of 2 mat layers to the plug and the flange before continuing with the 10-ounce fabric.
let each of these first two mat layers cure individually before laying up the first layer of 10-ounce fabric. This ensures that the mold does not get too hot and distort the tool and gel coat during the cure cycle. Once these 3 layers have been applied in this fashion and the mold allowed to cool, 2 to 3 layers may be applied at a time and the mold will resist heat distortion. Continue by laying in the 10-ounce fabric between every 2 layers of top-stain mat. The fabric is stronger and more stable than the mat and will help the overall strength of the mold. You don't
We're gonna
want to
let that
cut the
harden.
10-ounce fabric more than
Let's
necessary.
see how that turns
It will
out.
be necessary to cut slits and some contours, but you don't want to cut strips. The properties of the fabric are best achieved by leaving it in as big of pieces as possible.
You can still apply resin liberally as needed to the plug and to
I
the
guess I
layers
should
of
leave a link
reinforcement.
to this video playing
Try
in the
to work
background.
evenly, applying the same number of layers to all areas.
Just to be
On large molds, it is easy to
polite.
lose track of how many layers have been applied and where. If you leave a surface cure for more than 24 hours, it may be necessary to sand it prior to laying on additional layers.
After all of the reinforcement layers were applied, the completed mold house was about 5/8 of an inch thick. We usually recommend that the mold be 3 to 4 times thicker than the parts to be produced in them. This is easily the case with the top mold, as only 3 layers of carbon fiber will be used to make the upper shell. The lower mold is also plenty thick.
We'll let that
because
dry
the
and we'll see how it
laminate
turns
is
out.
really only 7 layers of carbon fiber. All 7 are only 1/8 of an inch thick in areas with no honeycomb.